MBA First Semester Organizational Behavior, Unit 1, Topic 2, Historical Background for Modern Organizational Behavior. Scientific Management Approach. Scientific management approach was developed by F.W. Taylor at the beginning of 20th century. This theory supported the use of certain steps in scientifically studying each element of a job, selecting and training the best workers for the job, and making sure that the workers follow the prescribed method of doing the job. It provided a scientific rationale for job specialization and mass production. His assumption was that employees are motivated largely by money to increase the output. Taylor advised managers to pay monetary incentives to efficient workers. Yet this theory was criticized by many employers and workers. Workers objected to the pressure of work as being harder and faster. Critics worried that the methods took the humanity out of labor, reducing workers to machines responding to management incentives. Therefore, Taylor's view is now considered inadequate and narrow due to the points given by the critics. Bureaucratic approach. While scientific management was focusing on the interaction between workers and the task, many researchers were studying how to structure the organization more effectively. Instead of trying to make each worker more efficient, classical organization theory sought the most effective overall organizational structure for workers and managers. The theory's most prominent advocate, Max Weber, proposed the bureaucratic form of structure which he thought would work for all organizations. Weber's ideal bureaucracy was logical, rational, and efficient. He made the naive assumption that one structure would work best for all organizations. Henry Ford, Henry Fayol, and Frederick W. Taylor, the early management pioneers, recognized the behavioral side of management. However, they did not emphasize the human dimensions. Although there are varied and complex reasons for emerging importance of behavioral approach to management, it is generally recognized that Hawthorne studies mark the historical roots for the field of organizational behavior. Hawthorne studies. Even as Taylor and Weber brought attention with their rational, logical approaches to more efficient productivity, their views were criticized on the ground that both approaches ignored workers' humanity. The real beginning of applied research in the area of organizational behavior started with Hawthorne experiments. In 1924, a group of professors began an inquiry into the human aspects of work and working conditions at Hawthorne plant of Western Electrical Company, Chicago. The findings of these studies were given a new name, human relations. The studies brought out a number of findings relevant to understanding human behavior at work. The human element in the workplace was considerably more important. The workers are influenced by social factors, and the behavior of the individual worker is determined by the group. Hawthorne studies have been criticized for their research methods and conclusions drawn, but their impact on emerging field of organizational behavior was dramatic. They helped usher in a more humanity-centered approach to work. Approaches to organizational behavior. There are mainly 4 approaches to organizational behavior. They are human resources approach, contingency approach, productivity approach, systems approach. Human resources approach. The human resources approach is concerned with the growth and development of people towards higher levels of competency. creativity, and fulfillment, because people are the central resource in any organization. This approach helps employees become better in terms of work and responsibility, and then it tries to create a climate in which they can contribute to the best of their improved abilities. This approach is also known as supportive approach, because the manager's primary role changes from control of employees to providing an active support for their growth and performance. The contingency approach. A contingency approach to organizational behavior implies that different situation requires different behavioral practices for effectiveness instead of following a traditional approach for all situations. Each situation must be analyzed carefully to determine the significant variable that exists in order to establish the more effective practices. The strength of this approach is that it encourages analysis of each situation prior to action. Thus, it helps to use all the current knowledge about people in the organization in the most appropriate manner. Productivity approach. Productivity is a ratio that compares unit of output with units of input. It is often measured in terms of economic inputs and outputs. Productivity is considered to be improved if more outputs can be produced from the same amount of inputs. But besides economic inputs and outputs, human and social inputs and outputs also are important. Systems approach. A system is an interrelated part of an organization or a society that interacts with everyone related to that organization or society and functions as a whole. Within the organization, people employ technology in performing the task that they are responsible for, while the structure of the organization serves as a basis of coordinating all their different activities. The systems view emphasizes the interdependence of each of these elements within the organization. If the organization as a whole is to function effectively, the other key aspects of system view of organization is to be emphasized on the interaction between the organization and its broader environment, which consists of social, economic, cultural, and political environment within which they operate.